don't know about the proposal from the animal shelter, humane shelter. The cost of that versus what it's going to cost us to go this other way is something we need to look at and see what's most cost effective for the taxpayer.
Well, let's do that and have that done by next Monday,
Okay.
because this is something we need to nail down, and I'm fine. I mean, I think we need at least 4 officers, and I'm fine with them being located under central
Well,
authority.
I think we actually need one to do animal cruelty investigations as well. If we're gonna do it.
I'd
do
say
it
3
right.
animal control officers and 1 investigator.
Let's hear from the sheriff, because we discussed some of these details.
Yeah, I would like to discuss this, the budget issues with you, because we would want, and I would want the court to know it's not a position that I want. I do this because the court is asking me to.
And we know that, Sheriff.
And
We really appreciate
I really
it.
don't need that additional headache at the present time, but we will, the chief deputy has been convinced that we can do that, and
I think he knows the lieutenant I was referring to.
yeah, we want to talk about the budget first, because we're going to need proper equipment, and because the public is very good. About 15 years ago, we were doing some research. There's been more people killed in the state of Texas over animals than there has been bad marriages, and so we would really like to discuss the budget with you about those things, and well, see my auditor.
Well, Sheriff, I just wanted some clarification, because I think we talked about 2 or 3 of those people not necessarily being certified peace officers,
That's
but being
correct.
certified animal control officers.
That's correct, right?
And having 1 or 2 that were that's law enforcement officer
One
who
that would
could be,
be a peace officer in the detective division.
he could handle the investigations.
All cruelty to animals,
Yeah,
and
cruelty
the filing of the charges with the district attorney's office. The animal control officer should be able to write tickets
Yes.
enforcing your law, and be able to enforce that law, but we can work it out for you
Okay.
with proper.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, if you like, I'll get with the sheriff's office this week and we'll develop a budget. And I'm assuming that you're wanting to transfer all animal control operations to the sheriff's office.
Yes.
Have something ready
And
before
vehicles.
Monday. And
And
vehicles and
vehicles.
everything it takes for them to take over the entire function. They no longer rest in the constables, is that correct?
Equipment and vehicles.
We will come up with something and then I'll get back with you, so you will have that information before you need to vote on Monday.
And Commissioner Fleming, I certainly didn't want to take away from the option that you mentioned, but as far as good, hard numbers, I think those are a little lacking from.
Sure,
Do
I don't
you
know
have
where
any
she
additional-
arrived. No,
Okay.
I was just, I just got this when I got back from Austin, and I just want us to look at this, and not only that, I'd like for us to look at, I'd like to have the sheriff look at what the court passed as changes in the ordinance, because if there's anything in there that's unclear as to the enforcement of it, I'd like for you all to let the court know, because we want to make sure that it's something that you all can enforce, or we'll be back to, if we have nowhere to put the animals, and we don't have enough coverage, and we haven't budgeted appropriately for it, and the ordinance can't be enforced, we're back where we were before we even started the discussion.
Well, she gave only reference if we went with the Northeast Texas Public Health District. She didn't say if we stayed within our own departments.
Well, I know that with adding all the other subdivisions, we need to make sure we've got adequate place to put the
Well,
animals.
we're also talking about admin officers, so that needs to
Sure.
be factored in there as far as you're going to be dealing with more.
We have a good relationship with the Humane Society, and I'm sure we can work out any problems.
We just need to solve it, so
Yep, by
So we
next
won't give
week.
it up to
Okay. Further discussion for today's workshop session.
Judge, I've got a question about workers' compensation. And it looks in the budget as if workers' comp is going down.
You know, it actually did. I'm totally amazed.
Is that possible? Because we're not
Yeah.
right
But
yet.
you have to remember that we are in a pool. And so although we have had some horrible years here in Smith County, the others are absorbing those along with us. So the rates actually did go down. I updated those not too long ago, and I was a little surprised myself. The rate and the factor went down, and it was pretty substantial. So, we may go up next year, but this year we're going to have a better year.
Judge, I've got just a couple more things. And in the permanent improvement fund. In the, working document, we didn't have anything, and then in the, proposed budget, we've got 1.5 million in projects. And I don't have a list of those.
Right, the list has not been identified yet, and we can always identify that later. I'm thinking there's probably going to be about $1.5 million left that can be allocated. As we get closer to the end of the fiscal year anyway, I need to see where we stand on the projects that we have presently going. Because any money that is going to be left over, we're going to want to roll that forward, and I will do that in the form of a budget amendment to you, a revenue and expenditure amendment, in order to roll those funds forward. So, you know, I think it's my estimate that you'll have an additional $1.5 million, so you can kind of start thinking about what you want to do with it. And please, I need you to spend the money. We've got to get rid of the money, or we're going to have to yield restrict it. We're going to have to do something with it because we're holding on to it way too long.
Okay, and it has to be used on an existing building.
It has to be used on an existing building, which brought up the subject this morning as y'all were talking about. You know, those constable buildings have to be tied. They cannot be freestanding. They have to be tied to those existing buildings. So I know you voted on change order this morning, but bear in mind, those have to be tied. They're expansions, they're not.
That's fine, what about yours?
Well, an existing building would be a county barn, wouldn't it? Also.
Yes,
Yes.
if you want to renovate an existing county barn, yeah, absolutely.
Well, let me go ahead and mention this. No, go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, I was remembering out at Rolling Bridge, they wanted to put something over their material so it would stay dry. I don't remember what it was.
Oh, yeah, we do need that.
The cover, right,
Yeah, the
yeah.
canopy.
Yeah.
So it'd be a good time to start putting together some sort of a list.
That's a good idea, Commissioner.
And I'd like to put the list in the final budget that we actually produce, even though it'll take me a while to get it together. But if we have the list together by then, I prefer to have it included.
And what collection rates are these? We talked about.
96%.
Okay. I'm gonna say something really unpopular here. What's new, right? I'd like for us to look at changing that collection rate up and down a little bit and incorporating that into adjusting our, some kind of way adjust our reserve here. I think, you know, the taxpayers are looking for boldness, but I don't think they're looking for bold spending all at one time.
Well, now adjusting the rate, all right, the 96% is current collections. That's my estimate of current collections. And then I take the remaining 4% and allocate that to delinquent collections. So basically, I am budgeting 100% between the two. The reality of that is normally our collections are 100 to 101%. But, you know, there's no real good formula for delinquent tax because they go years and years back. So that's just a formula that happens to work for me. Now, you know, there's some counties that will budget 100% in current. No, that doesn't happen.
And actually, Mike Burnett complimented you on the way you actually do that.
Who did?
Mike Burnett at the place of district, he thought you did an excellent job.
Thank you. Well, it's worked for me in the past. It usually comes very close when you take the delinquent and the current taxes and add them together and match them to our current collections or our collections for the fiscal year. They're relatively close usually, so.
I still would like to see the court come down on the tax rate a little bit. I think we need to buy a little goodwill out in the community right now.
So, before we wrap it up, talk about the improvement fund. The Council of Judges did discuss the thing that they've discussed for a while now, and that is a separate entrance for the judges. And I just want us to remember that. I know that we have not formulated a complete package plan for all the needs of the county yet, but we need to incorporate that in whatever we do. Perhaps we can utilize some of the remaining funds for that.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, if we're talking about a separate entrance again, that will eat up that 1 point. I mean, if it's the kind of